virtual session, there will now be an opportunity for silent prayer or meditation. Thank you. Honorable members, before we proceed, I would like to remind you that the virtual mini plenary is deemed to be in the precinct of Parliament and constitute a meeting of the National Assembly for debating purposes only. In addition to the rules of the virtual sittings, the rules of the National Assembly, including the rules of debate, will apply. Members enjoy the same powers and privileges that apply in sittings of the National Assembly. Members should equally note that anything said in the virtual platform is deemed to have been said to the House and may be ruled upon. All members who have logged in shall be considered to be present and are requested to, which is very important, to mute their microphones and only unmute when recognized to speak. This is because the mics are very sensitive and will pick up noise which might disturb the attention of other members. When recognized to speak, please unmute your microphone and connect your video. Members may make use of the icons on the bar at the bottom of their screens, which is an option that allows a member to put up a hand. The Secretariat will assist in alerting the chairperson to members requesting to speak. When using the virtual system, members are urged to refrain or desist from unnecessary points of order or interjection. We shall now proceed to the order, which is the debate on Vote 9, Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation Appropriation Bill. I now recognize the Honorable Minister in the Presidency, Honorable Mondli Kungube. The Minister. Honorable Minister in the Presidency, are you in the House? Honorable Deputy Minister Kekana, is your minister online?
Let me check. I think he should be, Honorable Chair.
I am now again recognizing the Honorable Minister in the Presidency, if he's online.
Honorable Chairperson, this is the Acting Chair, Tina Jumat Peterson. We have not yet noted the Minister.
Okay. Thank you, Honorable Acting Chair Jumat Peterson. Are we able in the next few seconds, Honorable Deputy Minister, to locate where the Minister is? Is he struggling with network? What is happening?
Chairperson.
Is that a point of order?
No, Chair. I want to suggest something for progress. Is it possible that we ask maybe another ANC minister or the deputy minister to speak, or unless we wait for 5 minutes for the minister to come on?
Thank you, Honorable Meglu. We will wait for 2 minutes. Your suggestion is appreciated, but you know it's not workable. Thank you, Honorable Meglu. Apologies, honorable members.
Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Acting Chair. I now recognize that the Minister is online. Honorable Minister in the Presidency, I have recognized you to speak and lead this important debate, but it happened that you are not online at the point of us starting. I again recognize you, Honorable Minister Pongubele, to lead the debate.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I'm trying to sort out connectivity. My apology. I don't know what went wrong. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, Chairperson of the session, Deputy Minister in the Presidency, Ms. Pinky Kekana, Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Public Service and Administration, Mr. T.H. James, members of the Portfolio Committee on Public Service and Administration, honorable members of the House, Director General for the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation, Mr. Robert Nkuna, distinguished guests, members of the media, fellow South Africans. I am pleased and honored to table the budget policy statement of the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation for the financial year 2022-23. This occasion happens as we celebrate Africa Month and the formation of African Union. During this month, we are all called upon to embrace our being as Africans and work towards the development of our continent and the African populace. As South Africa, we reiterate our commitments to building a better Africa and a better world through dedicated programs to reduce unemployment, inequality, and eliminate poverty. Many of the people in the continent and in our country are still trapped in poverty with limited prospect for employment. Hence, we welcome the African Union's timely decision to dedicate this year towards the safeguard of nutrition and food security across the continent. This is consistent with our strategic long-term goals to reduce unemployment, poverty, and inequality as expressed in the National Development Plan and so on. Our government is also assist with endeavors to ensure that South Africans, especially the poor, do not only have access to food, but to nutrition as well. Government has established the Food and Nutrition Council, which is led by His Excellency Deputy President David Mabuza, with the DPME providing secretariat services. Through this effort, we intend to mobilize other stakeholders across society to ensure that South Africans have access to nutrition. Government is already a significant contributor to food nutrition through its programs and activities which spread across departments such as social development, health, and basic education. We will brief Parliament on progress in this regard as we move along with the implementation of this important effort. Honorable members, the National Development Plan remains our lodestar as we continue to deal with the current and future challenges post-COVID-19. Besides the devastation caused by the pandemic and most recently floods in parts of our country, including Eastern Cape, KwaZulu-Natal, and Northwestern provinces, there's still scope to make significant strides to achieve the goals of the NDP. For us, Honorable Chair, to effectively achieve these goals as encapsulated in the NDP, we have to overcome the threat posed by the COVID-19 pandemic, rebuild our economy, equip our people with necessary skills, fight corruption both in government and in the private sector. Just as in many other African countries, our economy was badly affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. In the past 2 years, we have had to battle the unpredictable surge of the coronavirus, find solutions to protect lives and livelihoods, and keep the system running in the service of the people. Our economy was badly affected, with some strategic businesses closed and many of our people lost their jobs. In the worst cases, Honorable Chair, many of our family members who may also have been breadwinners succumbed to the pandemic and left families in the worst economic circumstances and emotional distress. This was further compounded by horrific emergent developments in the country, such as the July 2021 unrest, floods and drought in KwaZulu-Natal, Eastern Cape and Northwest provinces. Underlying and parallel to the COVID-19 pandemic, we also have to deal with the abuse, violation and killing of women, an unpleasant phenomenon which continues to hinder women's participation in the economy and the full enjoyment of basic human rights. We would like to commend the efforts of all who continue to collaborate with government to ameliorate the impact of these unfortunate incidents in a manner that signified the ultimate demonstration of our nation's rootedness to the efforts of Ubuntu. Frontline workers put their lives on the line to save those affected. Honorable Chair, ordinary individuals and community members worked with government to quell the July unrest and protect targeted economic infrastructure. Various civil society organizations joined government to deal with devastating aftermath of the flood. We continue to work with all organizations and stakeholders nationwide to call for an end to gender-based violence. The impact of these emergent circumstances is so vast and deep that our victory will only prevail if we continue to work together in the manner that will respond to these challenges. The President reminded us during the State of the Nation address to build on the foundation of the Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan and continue to implement the 7 priorities of 2019-24 medium-term strategic framework, which is the 5-year plan of government towards the implementation of the NDP. The President emphasized the need to work collectively with all partners to overcome the pandemic, massively roll out the infrastructure program, substantially increase local production, implement the economic stimulus to create jobs, and rapidly expand our energy generation capacity. The President also announced the amendment and tightening of laws that are critical in dealing with the scourge of gender-based violence and femicide. It is upon us to ensure that all these key focus areas are implemented to help catapult our country out of this current situation. Honorable Chair, honorable members, we need to forge a solid and a seamless synergy with all government departments, entities, and social partners, align our plans to these strategic objectives and long-term developmental plans. We must recalibrate our efforts to ensure that our plans are implemented within the set time and allocated budgets. It is for this reason that we have identified the institutionalization of planning, monitoring, and evaluation as the theme and program of this year. TPME has to increase its effectiveness to ensure that we institutionalize these tools in such a way that we achieve tangible results. Our resolve as TPME is to ensure that this outcome action-oriented planning and implementation process should happen consistently across all spheres of government and agencies. This synergy should entail mechanism for us to be each other's watchdog and encourage us to aspire to the highest levels of accountability. In this way, we will ensure that work gets done according to our plans and in a manner that improves people's livelihood and allow for the full participation of all the citizens. The DPME, working together with the National Planning Commission and all spheres of government, is at the heart of this synergy and has a critical task to institutionalize planning in alignment with developmental goals and outcomes in government, provide effective monitoring mechanism, evaluate all critical programs to assess the nature of our impact in society. The NPC in particular, as the custodian of the NDP, should assist with institutionalization of planning amongst all social partners, provide critical research on the implementation of key focus areas, and mobilize stakeholders outside government to contribute towards the attainment of our development goals. Honorable Chairperson, I am excited that the newly appointed commissioners of the National Planning Commission have already shown the zeal to work with us towards the mainstreaming of long-term planning and attainment of NDP goals. They bring with them a wealth of experience in various sectors of our society and help us reach as many potential stakeholders as possible. We expect them to build on the crucial research outputs of the previous National Planning Commission and help to create a credible repository of evidence that will support the work towards the NDP goals. This third NPC, which commenced its duty last year in December, has a critical mandate to lead the development agenda, advise on key developmental issues, accelerate, promote, monitor, and assess implementation of the NDP, conduct long-term research, and create a body of evidence, help the country to look ahead in futuristic manner, and ensure international partnerships for development in our country. Although the NPC is an independent advisory body, we want to see them work closely with the DPME and create a framework for integrated planning in government. We remain, Honorable Chair, committed to produce legal framework that will usher in a new predictable and automated planning paradigm and discipline within and across all spheres of government. In this regard, the DPME will undertake intergovernmental and public consultations on the revised Integrated Development Planning Framework Bill. We anticipate that these consultations will be finalized by September 2022, and the necessary updates to incorporate comments will be effected by March 2023. The finalization and assertion of this bill will build on the existing work, and that is happening in the DPME, to institutionalize planning and assist with the alignment of key priorities. Over the years, the DPME has consistently assessed all departmental strategic plans and annual performance plans to ensure that they are aligned to MTSF and NDP. These efforts were augmented with series of training sessions for key planning functionaries in government to get them up to speed with the planning framework and guiding concepts. This work, which will continue in the financial year 2022-23, has been enhanced by the development of much more nuanced theory of change that would guide integrated development planning in government and ensure that all components of government machinery work collaboratively to achieve the set MTSF and NDP outcomes. This work has also been strengthened by the introduction of the National Annual Strategic Planning Instrument in the planning cycle of government to improve developmental results. The National Annual Strategic Planning Instrument sets out the priorities for the year ahead and improve the alignment between medium-term strategic priorities and annual plans and budgets of departments. The NASP, as it is commonly called now, is in alignment with the priorities that were set out in the President's 2022 State of the Nation Address, aligned with NDP and MTSF. It is anchored on 4 key areas that are aimed at stabilizing the current situation and lead to full recovery, namely management of pandemic, economic recovery, employment support and relief, and building state capability for effective delivery. In line with the key areas, the NASP identifies 10 critical interventions that should find expression in departments' annual plans. These top intentions include these top 10 interventions include the need to massify job creation, effect structural reforms, and create conditions for ease of doing business in the country. digitization and modernization, food security and household income, provision of basic income services, access to clean, drinkable water, and dignified sanitation. Encourage citizens to take up vaccines for protection against COVID-19 and deal with the corruption decisively. The implementation of these top 10 interventions will be monitored and evaluated on a monthly basis to ensure consistency in alignment and delivery. We will ensure that this enhanced planning paradigm finds expression across all spheres of government through the district development model. The DPME chairs the Presidency Steering Committee on the DDM and has already established a number of work streams to assist in driving integrated planning and implementation of programs in the 44 pilot districts. As you may be aware, Honorable Chair, the DDM adopts an integrated approach and dispels silos in the implementation of government programs across the 3 tiers of government. Its intention is to ensure that plans translate into implementable programs that yield to demonstrable results. The DDM calls for government to coordinate and integrate development plans and budget and mobilize the capacity and resources of social partners in pursuit of inclusive growth and job creation. A number of pilot districts have launched the model and are beginning to realize its delivery capability across the 3 spheres of government. Most of the districts have submitted their one plans, which coordinates developmental efforts and sets specific timelines for delivery. These one plans also encapsulate identified catalytic projects which will help stabilize the current situation and lead to sustainable economic recovery and growth. The DPME will review these plans regularly to ensure alignment with the NASP, MTSF 2019-2024, and the NDP developmental goals. We're building, Honorable Chair, we are building in effective monitoring mechanisms around all the plans to track implementation and develop timely corrective measures. The department will, over the medium term, continue to monitor government performance towards the achievement of envisaged outcomes by, among others, conducting biannual integrated medium-term strategic framework monitoring reviews. These reviews are aimed at measuring progress against MTSF priorities to achieve improved accountability of the government in the implementation of service delivery programs and projects. Reviews will include monitoring of the implementation of the industrial master plans, food and nutrition security, gender-based violence and femicide, COVID-19 assessments and Operation Pagisa assessment, and the ease of doing business in the country. As this financial year marks the midpoint of our MTSF 2019-2024, the DPME will also produce a midterm review report of government performance against the set 7 priorities. We want to bolster the evidence that is generated through monthly, biannual, midterm, and sectoral reviews with rapid evaluation of key government programs. Our evaluation team at the DPME will conduct a rapid evaluation on programs that are aimed at achieving our annual APEX priorities as detailed in the NASP. Rapid evaluation will be implemented along the approved National Evaluation Plan, which is anchored on the 7 priorities of MTSF 2019-24. We need this feedback to design appropriate corrective intervention, improve our plans, and fine-tune the delivery mechanism. We are working on the development of a large-scale tertiary knowledge hub that will host all this evidence and link us to research outputs in the various sectors. The DPME will create a real-time data center that is geographically referenced to enable the President to have a line of sight of government intervention and the impact that these interventions have on the objects of change, the people of our country. We want to work towards a scenario where all the citizens can access and track progress in the implementation of government programs against the set target. As a result, the DPME is at the advanced stage in the development of centralized data management system, which will enable data users to access, retrieve, analyze, and visualize data. We want all citizens to be a part of the envisaged growth and development by building the necessary capability in the state and work towards the higher standard of accountability. Hence, we consider the signing and reviews of performance agreement for the executive and heads of department an important element in the capability of the state. The department has a task to coordinate the signing of performance agreement for the minister and heads of department and ensure alignment with the annual performance plans and overall developmental goals. Our frontline monitoring team, Honorable Chair, is on the ground to review the quality of government services, identify potential hindrances, and bring in the necessary evidence. We want to ensure that no one is left behind as we rebuild our country amidst this pandemic and work towards inclusive development and growth. We encourage all the people in South Africa to vaccinate against coronavirus to offset its impact in our society. We call on all South Africans to protect critical economic infrastructure to safeguard existing jobs and source of livelihoods. Let us lead the change against corruption because it compromises all our efforts to accelerate the recovery process and set our economy on the positive economic recovery. No woman must be subjected to abuse, violation, and discriminated against in all facets of our lives. The youth must adopt this recovery and stabilization as its main cause and participate effectively in all programs that seek to grow the country. We want a skilled youthful workforce that can drive this recovery with necessary vigor and speed. Honorable Chair, we commit to deploy the vote budget for the financial year 2022-23, which amounts to 470.9 million towards building an integrated evidence-based planning, monitoring, and evaluation system. It is our view that this will significantly improve the capability of the state to deliver and promote participation of various stakeholders and ordinary people. With the budget made available, we have allocated and will spend as follows. 119.4 million will be dedicated to the compensation of employees' goods and services, 84.6 to contribute to the improved development outcomes for the country through the coordination and institutionalization of integrated government planning system. Example of an interventions include the monitoring of NDP, automation of planning system across all government institutions, and stakeholder engagement programs of the NPC. 69.4 million dedicated to monitoring government's progress on its achievement of the goals set out in the NDP. There are many interventions that will be implemented, to name a few: monitoring reviews that measure progress against MTSF priorities and submitted to Cabinet on the state of government performance against MTSF, monitoring the implementation of Operation Pagisa labs, and implement the local government management improvement model. 3.1 million dedicated towards providing support for the implementation of the MTSF with the following key interventions: monitoring and reporting on the performance agreement and implementation of the ministerial PMDS, monitoring and reporting on the performance analysis of the DGs, and the performance and capability of the national and provincial departments. Other key areas, Honorable Chair, include the monitoring of contribution of SOEs towards MTSF and frontline services on the implementation of MTSF priorities at the district level, and monitoring the institutionalization of national anti-corruption strategy. Towards the end, 43.4 dedicated towards advancing evidence-based planning, monitoring and evaluation, and this will enable reporting on selected indicators on economic and social development in South Africa, technical support interventions, including training capacity development, facilitation, data assessment, and standard setting documents and guidelines and development, piloting and the deployment of the centralized data management analytical system. As I conclude, I want to thank the Deputy Minister in the Presidency who relentlessly support the work of the department. I also want to thank the Director General of the TPME and his team for their commitment to work towards building a synergized system and delivery mechanism. I also want to thank the Portfolio Committee, as always, with regard to their very vigorous and robust oversight and interrogation of our work. Without them, the little improvements we are proud of would not have been there. This year is turning point, and we would appreciate if members of Parliament could approve our program of action against the voted funds.
Thank you, Honorable Senator. Thank you, Honorable Senator. Your time is
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I'm done. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I now recognize Honorable James.
Honorable House Chairperson, Honorable Minister and Deputy Minister, Honorable members of the Portfolio Committee, Chairperson of the Planning Commission and Commissioners, senior officials of the department. In this Portfolio Committee and within our sector, we recognize the National Development Plan as a national blueprint which proposes the following for our sector in a bigger scheme of things. The plan argues that decentralizing authority to ministers and their department heads will not be effective unless accompanied by increased delegation, particularly to those at middle management level who are mandated to make day-to-day decisions. In the absence of such effective delegation, decision-making is slowed down, and implementation is delayed. Moreover, accountability is weakened if paperwork has to be signed by middle people or at multiple stages of the process. The plan thus submits that streamlined processes are needed that clarify accountability and that make it easier for department to make decisions. Furthermore, the plan raises concern about whether Parliament is fulfilling its role in building an accountable and responsive state. The National Planning Commission proposes the following steps to strengthen delegation, accountability, and oversight. Encouraging greater and more consistent delegation, supported by effective systems of support and oversight. Ensuring that all service delivery points provide clear information on whether citizens can go, on where citizens can go and who can they talk to if they are dissatisfied. Requiring frontline staff to wear name tags to make it easier for citizens to provide feedback on the standard of service delivery they receive. Strengthening the oversight role of Parliament and provincial legislatures. The plan argues that some of the government's best performing institutions are those with a stable leadership and policy approach. However, it is not always clear how the roles and responsibilities are divided between political principals and administrative heads, which often undermines this stability. In order to stabilize the political administrative interface, the Commission proposes that the role of the Public Service Commission in championing norms and standards and monitoring recruitment processes be strengthened. An administrative head of public service be created who would be responsible for the managing career progression of heads of department, including convening panels for recruitment, performance assessment, and disciplinary procedures. a hybrid approach to top appointments be employed that allows for reconciliation of administrative and political priorities. A purely administrative approach to lower level appointments be adopted, with senior officials given full authority to appoint staff in their departments. Chairperson, ministers and honorable members, our approach as the Portfolio Committee is that this department should plan, monitor, and evaluate government's work around and against these policy principles towards 2030. There should be already markers and milestones towards achieving the National Development 2030. 2030 is just 8 years away from now. It is the ANC government's commitment to achieve this plan, since it was well thought, presented, and then gradually implemented by different sectors of the economy and government. Implementation is still ongoing because the culmination is 2030. The social idiom prevailing is that the wheels of government turn slowly. However, the reforms that have been introduced and carried through regarding the NDP demonstrate that as the ruling party and parliament, we are cordial in wanting to see the planning out so well to transform government, the public service and society. Within this, we need to be each other's keepers and watchdogs. We need the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation coming hard on other departments to move towards their sector goals towards 2030. We need the ministry to be hard on colleagues in cabinet to move towards their sector goals towards 2030. We need ourselves as parliament to ensure that both government and public service are moving towards achieving what must be achieved concerning the National Development Plan 2030. As the department is planning to produce 2 reports per year over the medium-term expenditure framework to monitor the impact of the policy priorities in relation to actual service delivery through various frontline monitoring programs. These reports must be objective and introspective to government. They must not save face. That will not help because our constituent society and opposition are not kind to us as the ruling party and government due to the objectivity in judging us also migrate to extreme subjectivity against us. Also, the ANC government still wants to govern because it has amassed experience in governing and steering the country and the economy. Therefore, we need to be objective to ourselves and be more critical to ourselves so that we correct a governance mistakes where we fail, improve where we do better, and glitter where we shine. Our engine room and our room must really be such, well-oiled, well-equipped. Targeted site visits, citizen-based monitoring, and the presidential hotline must be strengthened and invigorated. What they actually reveal to us must be what we fix. No time to save face. A real story is a good story to tell. We want this department to be evidence-based so that planning is done against the reality. In that way, the diminishing resources can be targeted towards real challenges and therefore be used optimally without wastage. To enhance capacity over the medium term, the performance agreements of heads of department must be realistic, developmental, capacitating, and evaluative. Performance of ministers must be NDP goals-based, aligned with government program of action, and annualized as much as they are medium-term. Never allow this performance agreement to be assessed outside a given year. Otherwise, milestone and key performance areas against the annual performance plan cannot be measured. Challenges and shortcomings will not be addressed immediately going into the subsequent year. Every correct and true assessment of persons and entities is cumulative, so that challenges and shortcomings can be detected earlier. As government and the public service become more professionalized and developmental, each department is tacitly and actually a leaning organization, meaning they are critically and truly assessed with a view to building them up than breaking them down. This does not mean the assessment will be patronizing. It means it will be evidence-based in order to create space for improvement. If that space of improvement is not honored.
Thank you, Honorable Member. On the improvement note, I now relieve you. Thank you, Honorable Member.
Thank you, Honorable House Chairperson. We support the budget vote of the department.
I now recognize Honorable Mbele.
Ngiyabonga Salonga Phambili, and good morning. Year after year, ANC governments have announced plans and programs, but fallen short on achieving them to address our challenges. We have been witness to a never-ending stream of promises without performance, intentions without implementation, and policies without political will. Economic growth is in chronic stagnation, job creation is in reverse gear, and the opportunities and increasingly the stomachs of too many of our people are shrinking in the face of our current crisis of rising living costs and food insecurity. 10 years after the adoption of the National Development Plan, this prevailing situation in our country is very far from the story we should have been telling today. Given that one of the key mandates of the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation is facilitating the implementation of the NDP, it is clearly failing in that mandate. The Minister in his speech earlier referred to the NDP as our lodestar, which means it is our compass by which to navigate and find true north. But under the steerage of the ANC, the SS South Africa is hopelessly lost and adrift at sea. Just this week, the Portfolio Committee received a monitoring report evaluation from the departments in which they admitted that since the NDP was adopted, progress has been slow toward achieving our main goals, and that South Africa is underperforming on various targets. 10 years in, we are nowhere near the lofty ambitions of eradicating poverty or creating 11 million new jobs. While we acknowledge that the DPME is not an implementation agent, it does need to demonstrate its merits more concretely through consistent follow-ups and leveraging of its position at the nerve center hub of government, as the minister himself conceded to Scopa earlier this year concerning complaints of SIU reports gathering dust, despite corruption findings across the state. This being a planning department, one is pressed to ask, where is the clear and convincing practical plan facilitated by DPME to stimulate economic growth to at least 4% per year? Being a monitoring and evaluation department, one is also pressed to ask, why are shortcomings with reaching performance targets not leading to capacity building and remedial corrections? Surely the presidency has the power to do so. But any informed observer of the governing party will already know that the presidency does not have the power to help translate planning into performance, or monitoring and evaluation into meritocracy and innovation, because the ANC in government is run on cadre deployment, and its animating lifeblood is patronage and political horse trading. Under such conditions, there is no fitness for purpose, no accountability, and no drive for achievements, let alone excellence. Instead, there is loyalty for reward, impunity for failure, and bumbling mediocrity at best, or catastrophic incompetence at worst. We need look no further than the shocking amateur hour that was the woeful preparedness and response of ANC governments and political office bearers to the July 2021 riots and KZN floods this year. Unsurprisingly, no heads have rolled or consequences sanctioned for those in high government office who let citizens down as they faced chaos, destruction of infrastructure, and loss of lives and livelihoods. The small ray of hope that shone through during those disasters as they unfolded and in their aftermath was a gritty demonstration of the adage that the things that are wrong in South Africa, poor governance, dysfunction, incompetence, and mismanagement, can be fixed by what is right about South Africa. The resilience, decency, enterprising spirits, and pragmatism of our people. One of the seminal scenario planning exercises ever produced in this country is the Dinokeng scenarios, whose optimal scenario, called Walk Together, could be described as the achievement of the vision of the National Development Plan. In that vision, a capable state and active citizens work together to fulfill the potential of this country for the realization of social cohesion and shared prosperity. Its worst scenario is called Walk Apart, in which disappointed citizens who no longer trust the governments after multiple failures disengage from the weak and ineffective states. Already, there have been growing signs of this walking apart for close to 20 years. As trust diminished in state schooling, government healthcare, and policing, citizens who could afford to have switched to relying primarily on private education, healthcare, and security. As the state-run freight and commuter rail service gradually ground to dysfunction, private businesses switched to private freight trucking and commuters switched to private taxi services. And more recently, as intensified load shedding exposes the terminal decline of Eskom, households and businesses are switching from state-run power generation and supply to private alternatives that minimize or eliminate these disruptions. The simple truth, Minister, is that unless the planning, monitoring, and evaluation work of this department starts to yield material and positive results, then the households, businesses, communities, and competent local and provincial governments in this country will increasingly find themselves having to walk apart from an ineffective and incompetent states to do their own planning, their own monitoring and evaluation, and their own implementation to secure their desired future. Thank you.
Thank you. I now recognize the EFF.
Chairperson. Honorable King speaking.
Hello.
Chairperson, Honorable Mbele had 10 seconds left. Can that be added to Honorable Maglua, please?
You're not going to do that. I now recognize the EFF.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair. Allow me not to switch on my video due to unstable network where I am. House Chair, we reject Budget Vote 9 on planning, monitoring, and evaluation. This is one of those departments that have not justified their existence and which cannot point to any meaningful contribution to the development of this country. It was in November 2011 when Cabinet approved the National Evaluation Policy Framework, which was purportedly meant to guide the government's monitoring of its performance. An integral part of any monitoring framework is its ability to feed back to policy making and to performance improvement. The minister would be the hard-pressed to point to any policy improvement in his country made because of the intervention of this department. He can never point to any area of performance in government that has improved because of areas of improvement identified through the intervention of this department. Chairperson, Program 3 of the department is about public sector monitoring and capacity development with a very specific focus on building the capacity of the local government spheres. We now all know that about 2/3 of the country's municipalities are completely dysfunctional, unable to deliver basic service such as refuse collection. This is even in big municipalities such as Mangaung. This minister here cannot stand up and speak with any conviction of any intervention they have made in working with these municipalities to improve their management. The presidential hotline under the so-called frontline and citizen-based service delivery monitoring has to be one of the biggest frauds of this regime. Not only is it poorly known among citizens, but it is also woefully useless amongst the few citizens who do know about it. Many questions have been asked about the useful of this hotline, and both the minister and the president cannot say exactly what service delivery issues have been resolved as a result of this hotline. Central to the establishment of the department was the National Planning Commission, which also gifted the country with a poorly conceptualized national development plan. When it was adopted, the NDP planned to have unemployment reduced to 6% by 2030. Unemployment rate at the time the NDP was adopted was at 24.6%. Yet today, unemployment rate in country is almost 35%, and the expanded definition of unemployment is sitting at 46%. To attain this goal, the NDP claimed that the GDP of the country would now grow at 5.4% and that 11 million new jobs would be created. This was a pie in the sky. We now all know that it is so because it was promised on faulty conceptual grounds. In an economy such as ours, characterized by a large number of poorly educated and less skilled labor force, you need direct state intervention to catalyze labor-intensive development. We need to build infrastructure that connects people and businesses. We need public service that is able to respond timelessly to service delivery and development bottlenecks. We need economic growth driven by redistribution of resources. The NDP failed to appreciate this, and the Ramaphosa regime is still laboring under the same misconception that a deeply racist and unpatriotic private sector would be able to drive growth and eliminate poverty and unemployment in this country. It will never happen. The people voted for you, solve their problem. They did not vote for the whites who give you crumbs and make you feel like you are better than the rest of the citizen. The NDP must be shelved and we must go back to basics. The Reconstruction and Development Program in 1994 correctly identified that needs to be done when it observed that No political democracy can survive and flourish if the mass of our people remain in poverty without land, tangible prospect for a better life. Attacking poverty and deprivation must therefore be the first priority of a democratic government. Failure to resolve this issue are threatening the very existence of our democracy. We reject this budget report and will work tirelessly to ensure that the vast majority of our citizens reject the ruling party too. I thank you, House Chair.
I now recognize the IFP.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. May I kindly not activate my video due to having an unstable connection, please. Honorable Speaker, according to a 2018 Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation, DPME report, in 2009, Ministers for National Planning and for Performance Monitoring and Evaluation were introduced into the presidency, followed by a consolidation of the two ministries into the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation, DPME, in 2014. This means that this department has been in operation in some form or the other for 13 years. Let me remind the House of the vision of the DPME, which is to coordinate government, planning, monitoring, and evaluation to address poverty, unemployment, and inequality. This dovetails with the department's mission of mobilizing stakeholders and harnessing resources towards the implementation of the NDP. As this department is located within the presidency, one would assume that it should lead from the front and be exemplary when it comes to its own planning, monitoring, and evaluation efforts. This is not the case. For example, the department's own website, its point of contact for the general public, is horribly outdated. The section titled Evaluations mentions a total of 38 evaluations are currently in the system, either completed, underway, or starting, and will be going to Cabinet during the 2014-2015 financial year. According to the Portfolio Committee report, in each year over the medium term, the department expects to produce 47 assessment reports. Which information is accurate? If it is the latter, why has the website not been updated for 7 years? According to its website, the department is also responsible for its citizen-based monitoring, CBM, which is listed first among the key focus areas. The website states the experiences of citizens, the intended beneficiaries of government services, are a critical component of measuring the performance of government and for the delivery of appropriate and quality services. However, it seems that this critical feedback was only gathered up to 2016, which is the most recent report available. Again, is this work actually being done? Either way, as the IFP, we have serious concerns about the way this department operates. There are many, many other examples of outdated information across the website. Truth be told, one struggles to find anything current. Yet it seems that consequence management is non-existent, and this laissez-faire attitude towards achieving targets and goals means the DPME does not have a foot to stand on when it comes to monitoring outcomes set for other departments and entities. Another prime example is the outcomes delivery agreements. There are 12, with each linked to a key focus area between now and 2014. Again, this is the most recent document available. The agreement for outcome 6 is listed as an efficient, competitive, and responsive economic infrastructure network and was signed by the various ministers on 29 October 2010. The agreement lists a work stream on energy, and in reference to governance and reporting arrangements, it states, and I quote, ensure reliable generation, distribution, and transmission of electricity. This agreement was signed 12 years ago with a deadline for 2014, which was 8 years ago. As we sit here today, chances are very good that ESCOM will plunge the country into darkness later today, bringing the total hours of load shedding for 2022 to 594 hours, which equates to 25 days without electricity. One is forced to question the efficacy of the DPME. as this is but one of many deadlines that have been allowed to lapse with no consequences. According to the Portfolio Committee report, the main aim of the department is to address the country's development priorities through the coordination and institutionalization of an integrated government planning system. On paper, this does not appear to be happening. How is South Africa expected to meet the NDP's 2030 goals when over the medium term, it appears goals set for 2014 are yet to be achieved? This department needs to get its house in order, and consequence management needs to become the order of the day. With deep reservations, the IFP accepts the budget. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. I now recognize the ACDP.
Thank you, Chairperson. The Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation is a key player in government and therefore should set a good example when it comes to performance. According to the committee report, the mandate of the department is derived from Section 85(2) of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, which includes developing and implementing national policy and coordinating the functions of state departments and administration. On Sunday, when President Ramaphosa addressed the Durban Chamber of Commerce on the recent floods in KZN, he said, and I quote, "This disaster proved to us that we are not as ready as we should be, and we will need to work together," close quote. A department that monitors frontline service delivery and manages the presidential hotline has to operate across all sectors of government. It has to coordinate departments while persuading cooperation between local, provincial, and national levels. Where capacity and political will are lacking, much planning, monitoring, and evaluation are needed to turn budgets and grants into actual local service delivery. The President is correct about our lack of disaster preparedness, but he neglected to mention the existence of a strategic report that could have made a difference in what happened in KZN. If it had been taken seriously and if its recommendations had been implemented. It is unfortunate, honorable members, that the 2021 review of the KZN Provincial Growth and Development Strategy was not considered and acted upon. This report was written by the KZN Planning Commission, which works for the National Planning Commission, which the Department of Planning, Monitoring, Evaluation has a constitutional mandate to support. The KZN Planning Commission report, however, had already warned in 2021 of the impact of climate change and the concomitant natural catastrophes. It called for the evolution of settlements and land use patterns that can withstand natural shocks. Last month, the President told Parliament that there would be a real-time audit of emergency flood relief. He admitted that it is a great shame that it has become necessary for people to say they do not trust public and officials in government because they might steal government money given to government for the relief. And the ACDP agrees that this is a great shame. This is because corruption has become part of the new culture of the current government in South Africa. I was surprised and disappointed this morning when I heard on ENC News that cabinet.
Thank you on that point of shame. Let me relieve you. Thank you. I now recognize the Honorable Deputy Minister.
Honorable House Chair, Ministers and Deputy Ministers, Chairperson Honorable James, and members of the Portfolio Committee, honorable members of Parliament, Team DPME as led by our DG Nkuna, distinguished guests, fellow South African. We thank you for this opportunity to present the budget vote of the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation, DPME, together with the Minister in the Presidency, Mr. Mondli Gungubele. The President has instructed us in his 2022 State of the Nation address to ensure that no one is left behind. Our recovery must be all-inclusive. And this is the theme of my presentation here today. Lest we forget that our Constitution says, and I quote, improve the quality of life of all citizens and free the potential of each person and build a united and democratic South Africa able to take its rightful place as a sovereign state in the family of nations, close quote. Our responsibility as the DPME is to ensure that government's developmental plans, implementation mechanisms, and most importantly, our performance must be obligatory to all South Africans. This obligation is founded in our Constitution and is translated for all South Africans into the National Development Plan, NDP, and the second medium-term strategic framework, the MTSF 2019-2024, which is aligned to the electoral mandate of the 6th administration. Aligned to this, on the 15th of October 2020, His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa launched South Africa's blueprint, the Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan, ERRP. For the purposes of this engagement, I wish to reiterate the national objectives of the ERRP for all government departments being to create jobs primarily through aggressive infrastructure investment and mass employment programs, to reindustrialize our economy, focusing on growing small businesses, to accelerate economic reforms and unlock investment and growth, to fight crime and corruption, and lastly, to improve the capability of the state, to ensure inclusive economic stabilization and recovery, as articulated by the minister earlier. It is our responsibility to monitor and evaluate the performance of all national government departments and use the data to inform the forward planning and the implementation approaches. But most importantly, we have stepped up efforts in assessing the delivery to our people on objectives as laid out in the annual performance plan, and most critically, against the ERRP. The DPME was created to ensure that the voices of the citizens forms the biggest part of the continuum of evidence on government performance. In this, we are consistently striving to reach as many people as possible to provide feedback on government performance. We are in this together. As the DPME, we want a state that works with our people to take joint ownership of development of the country and reflect on their lived experiences as they interact with government on programs and services. Our stepped up efforts have rendered great results in improved delivery. As a result, for the next budget year, we will be aggressively refining our channels to ensure efficient facilitation of citizen government engagement. Together with Government Communication and Information System, the GCIS, we have reintroduced the SONA Presidential Izimbizos to create a platform for citizens to engage with government directly on issues that undermines their full inclusive participation in the development of the country. As we sit here today, the President himself is engaging communities in the Mpumalanga province, and some of our team members are there to record the feedback from those communities and get the unfiltered truth. Feedback like this is constantly being solicited and is submitted into our monitoring system that allows government departments to evaluate and understand exactly what their respective impacts are in according to their APPs, and ultimately what their status is in service to our people. We have frontline monitoring support teams whose jobs is to visit service centers in line with the priorities of government, as I have listed at the beginning of this presentation. The team also visited a number of health facilities to assess their state of readiness to handle COVID-19 related cases, and later to incubate and roll out vaccines. We have been to schools to assess their state of readiness to receive children and protect them against the virus and its variants as they arose. When GBVF first became a critical growing challenge in the various stages of lockdown, we visited a number of police stations to assess how they are dealing with these cases amidst the pandemic. We met with various leaders in communities to determine possible interventions to rebuild our country. All of this has been developed into reports highlighting areas of improvements for various government departments, and we're working with the relevant stakeholders to ensure that all challenges are addressed. We can't turn things around overnight. We wish we could, but we can ensure that delivery to our people is on in a way that is tangible and valuable. The adage goes, what gets measured gets managed. We are the measurement part of that adage, so that management of the challenges are made clear to all those responsible, because how we manage this country is the administration's chapter in the history books of South Africa. The floods in KwaZulu-Natal, Eastern Cape, and Northwest provinces have left many people devastated and dislocated from their homes, without food, shelter, and many other basic amenities, while dealing with their hurt or loss of loved ones. As the monitors of the country, we have to ensure that all relevant national resources are deployed accordingly to restore the dignity of the victims and the economic infrastructure. We have deployed an experienced team that will be able to identify challenges, propose interventions to fast-track the rebuilding process, and capture the response and feedback on the ground. The presidential hotlines continues to be an expedient platform for thousands of citizens to make their voices heard. But more importantly, today I want to confirm to our people, we are listening. So much so that the DPME is upgrading the presidential hotline with advanced new technologies for tracking of progress in the resolution of complaints. Last year, we piloted the presidential hotline mobile app in partnership with the Limpopo provincial government to allow citizens to engage with government. On my visits home, I have been inundated with compliments about its impact, but officially, we are currently assessing the feedback we are receiving from this pilot exercise. And once all the kinks of the pilot test have been registered and fixed, we will roll out the mobile app nationally to ensure that it responds to the needs of the people with efficiency and speed. We are exploring the signing of memorandums of agreement with national, provincial and local government leaders and bureaucrats on clear operational terms and conditions. Honorable House Chair, the official feedback from citizens have spotlighted the shortcomings in both government system and the abilities of officials to deliver services to our people. We are critically monitoring the dangerous levels of corruption in our country, and to this end, we welcome the efforts of the GCPS cluster to deal with this scourge. We call on our people to continue to report fraud and corruption to the relevant law enforcement agencies. I want to reiterate to our people that as the DPME, we are your voice in government. As citizenry, we need to work together to ensure that corruption does not undermine the efforts made by the majority to rebuild our country, our economy, and to create much needed jobs. On that note, we are also working closely with National Treasury to monitor the payment of services within the prescribed 30 days. Entrepreneurs have been calling on government to ensure that all its departments and entities comply with the 30-day payment prescription to protect business activities and jobs. Our assessment thus far shows that many departments are indeed complying with the 30-day rule, especially in Gauteng province, but we call on all departments to exceed, not just comply. This way, our country gets an economic boost by literally putting money into the hands of our people. As I conclude, honorable members, this country belongs to our people, to the people of South Africa. We invite all stakeholders to form a compact with us as government, partner with us in head and heart to reconstruct and recover our economy, improve the livelihoods, and truly live beyond the pandemic to create a prosperous nation. I thank you, Honorable Chair.
Nkosi Mekekane, for your input. As I proceed to the next speaker, I'm now going to hand over to my colleague, the acting chairperson, Tina Jumat-Peterson, as I recognize Honorable Kibi from the African National Congress. Honorable Kibi and Honorable Jumat, take over. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, Honorable Minister and Deputy Ministers, Honorable Chief Whip and Deputy Chief Whip, Honorable Members. The ANC remains committed to the vision of a capable, ethical and developmental state that was outlined in the National Development Plan. This was described as a state with the capacity to foster and guide socio-economic development and effectively use state resources to meet the needs and the demands of the people. There must be sufficient capacity in the public service to deliver healthcare, housing, education, and other government services to the people. The developmental state is a critical cog in the transformation of the political economy from colonial apartheid speciality to a vibrant mixed economy, informed by the fundamental insight that the inclusive reconstruction and development of the economy, in which the state plays both a regulatory role and one of influencing the direction of investment in the productive sectors of the economy, facilitate public-private partnerships for strategic objectives, and ensure that public good and public interest are protected from excessive market forces who are less interested in these areas. It is within this broader context that we should make an appropriation of the road planning, monitoring, and evaluation plays in state discuss. The planning, monitoring, and evaluation approach draws from result-based management, which is orientated towards achieving clearly defined and demonstrated results. This increases transparency and accountability, allows interventions to complement each other and avoid overlap and waste. As the state is expected to direct investment towards productive sectors, this approach enables the state to greatly enhance the effectiveness of investment projects and plans. This approach provides the state with a successful set of tools which provide the barometer to measure the overall thrust of the state towards fulfilling its developmental mandate, which is addressing the triple challenges of poverty, unemployment, and inequality. The United Nations Development Assistance Framework, which draw upon the comparative strengths and practices of the various elements of the UN system, monitoring and evaluation provided coherent support to help strengthen national data systems to track the implementation of the sustainable development of the strengthened developmental goals, which are prominent features in the NDP. Monitoring alignment of national policies and frameworks with international norms and commitments. Monitor the situation of vulnerable groups such as women and the youth, and enable meaningful engagement to citizens in the development process that benefits everyone. The UN Development Assistance Framework ensures that changes to the context and learning from implementation enable quick adjustments to programming approaches whenever necessary. Honorable Chairperson and honorable members, in 2020, the National Planning Commission undertook a review of the NDP. This was 7 years after it was adopted, with an intention to examine the progress made with regards to meeting the strategic objectives, identifying the challenges and bottlenecks, and recommend recourse correction in order to get back to the trajectory that was envisaged by the NDP. One of the overarching challenges identified by the review is the systematic erosion of the state capacity through the weakening of institutions and agencies, lack of human resources capacity, and the lack of confidence from the private sector. The review also amplified the point that the developmental state must prioritize the vulnerable in our society, especially those living with high levels of poverty, and be more deliberate about closing the gap between rich and poor. We must build on existing social wage and social protection policies and measures. One of these most immediate challenges identified in the review is the need for energy security in our economy. The growth prospects of our economy are significantly dampened by energy insecurity, which increases the cost of doing business, especially for small, medium enterprises, which must be the engines of job creation. The review called for a broader consensus on the economy, of which an integral part must of necessitate also include building and deepening consensus around a common vision for a just transition to a low carbon, climate resilient economy and society. The NDP made a submission that developing proposals for pathways to achieve this transition is crucial, whilst recognizing that transitions are already underway. Planning, monitoring and evaluation is going to be a very big part of the success of these interventions. The COVID-19 pandemic continues to place a strain on not only our economy, but also the entire global economy. According to the World Bank Global Economic Prospects, global recovery is set to decelerate amid a continued COVID-19 flare-ups, diminished policy support, and lingering supply bottlenecks. Having drawn from the COVID-19 experience and what was raised by the Auditor General and various institutions regarding the lack of monitoring and evaluation, which was evident in many departments, and even local government, the state must put in place plans that take into cognizance the emerging realities that will be thrusted upon us by COVID-19 and other developments in the global arena. Following the devastation of the COVID-19 pandemic on our economy, the President announced the Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan. This, which was three phases: engage and preserve, which includes a comprehensive health responsive to save lives and curb the spread of the pandemic, recovery and reform, which is about restoring the economy, which is controlling the health risks, and lastly, reconstruct and transform, which entails building a sustainable, resilient, and industry inclusive economy. DPME has a critical role in all these stages to ensure that we achieve the desired results. One of the most critical aspects that is amplified in this budget is the role of Brand South Africa in mobilizing stakeholders in society behind the NDP and the economic reconstruction and the recovery plan. But also equally important is the making of South Africa to be an investment destination in the post-COVID-19 economy. This requires us to ensure that Brand South Africa is able to have a wider reach, both domestically and internationally. This is why it is important to attend to the challenges which have been cited in the report and restore an environment of certainty and sustainability in the organization. I thank you, Honorable Chairperson, and the ANC supports the budget vote.
Thank you, Honorable Kibi. The DA, Honorable McCluver, your 30 seconds will be added.
Thank you, Chairperson. Over the last decade, it has become difficult listening to government departments presenting the strategic plans, the annual performance plans, and budget allocations. A case in point is this budget vote. On 11 February 1990, South Africa witnessed the release of former President Nelson Mandela. In 1994, when the ANC came to power, it was a foundation to build on. We boasted with some of the finest infrastructure on the African continent. We had good roads, functional railways, excellent schools, maintained law and order. Considering that many communities could not access many of these, it was a foundation the ANC could build on. DPME plays a vital role in terms of planning, annual performance, strategic monitoring and evaluation, and to assess the impact of policy priorities in relation to actual service delivery programs, including various frontline monitoring programs. DPME's budget allocation for this financial year increased by 17.84% and will receive a 470.9 million rand. The increase is due to the appointment of a second deputy minister by the president. Well, the president may have exercised his executive authority, but for many South Africans, the empty promises of the ANC means nothing. Sadly, we do not have a government anymore. A fish rots from its head. The role of DPME has become bankrupt and incoherent. The ANC may sing like an angel, walk like an angel, talk like an angel. Chairperson, behind empty promises is a buffalo in disguise. We do not have to look any further than Cuba. Program 4 relates to public sector monitoring and capacity development. It aims to monitor and improve the capacity of state institutions with references to ministerial performance, performance of head of departments, and the developmental system, including the monitoring of COVID-19, where crime has paid off so well for ANC comrades. The COVID-19 corruption scandal hit the 5 billion mark. As I'm speaking, some still cashing in. Mr. Ramaphosa's spokesperson, Pusela Diko, has swindled the public purse with PPE contracts under his nose. She was found guilty, failing to disclose her interest and only received a written warning. There are numerous allegations of those having a hand in killing Babita Deokaran, a key witness into more than 300 million rand spent on PPEs by the Gauteng Health Department. DPME's role in monitoring national and provincial government departments on COVID-19 programs has failed dismally. Chairperson, we need a vaccine to cure corruption. DPME announced with fanfare about its monitoring framework to ensure that all recommendations of the Zondo Commission report be directed to government departments and to ensure that it be implemented to close down existing gaps that facilitate corruption and abuse of power either in policy or implementation. With the ongoing factionalism, it is hard to believe this. Amid the Gupta Gate, the Travel Gate, the Basasa Gravy Train, the status of state-owned enterprises, let alone the absent without leave tendencies of the Deputy President, a range of scandals. And as far as the eye can see, from Cape Town to Joburg, witnessing the great big flag of Mr. Mtetwa. No morals or values, yet comrades are still singing Tumamina. The committee raised concerns about poor workmanship in government constructions, projects during floods in KwaZulu-Natal, where newly built bridges collapse. Priority 1 and 6 of DPME's MTSF seeks to address a capable, ethical, and developmental state, ensure social cohesion, and save communities respectively. The looting in KZN, glitches in home affairs, xenophobic violence, digital vibes, Northwest departments under Section 100 intervention, even those trashing the system. The list does not end here. DPME might tell us more. Then there is Brand South Africa. It has no footprint among South Africans. Cabinet's resolution to rationalize similar entities should be applauded, Minister, through you, Chairperson. It is no surprise that a board of trustees opposing the merger between Brand and SA South and tourism. The mandate, mission, and vision of Brand South Africa bears no major differences to that of tourism. Instead, the tail is now wagging the dog. With a section of parliament burned down, voters do not believe in the ANC anymore. President Ramaphosa and Mr. Zuma have a lot in common when it comes to the presidency. Their love for Cuba, the lack of an oversight committee in the presidency, they hate to be held accountable. Minister Gungubele, your predecessor, Mr. Trevor Manuel, has criticized the ANC and resigned. Former President Motlanthe predicted the end of the ANC. Minister, your Majesty government is about to implode. Merry Christmas, Mr. Gungubele.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mcluver. Honorable Malumani.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Can I switch off my video because due to the issue of network?
Allowed.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Minister and Deputy Minister, Honorable Chief Whip and Deputy Chief Whip, Honorable Members. Planning, monitoring, and evaluation is significant to ensuring that government execute ANC policies effectively. It is significant to ensure that there is a proper planning, policy coherence, and policy impact assessment. But most importantly, it must also ensure that budgets address alignments to policy and addresses the socio-economic challenges that the country experiences. Without effective planning, monitoring, and evaluation, it will be impossible to judge if government work is going in the right direction, whether progress and success can be claimed, and how future efforts might be improved. The center of government lies at the planning stage and its effective monitoring and evaluation. Thus, this process that the House is undertaking is important to ensure that the budget votes being debated are in alignment with government's policy and most significantly aim to address the triple challenge of poverty, inequality, and unemployment. The National Development Plan was adopted and implemented in 2012 as a country blueprint plan to drive interventions aimed at eliminating poverty, unemployment, and reduce inequality. Government has translated the NDP into the medium-term strategic framework or delivery outcomes. Various government departments have been implementing the plan, and our communities can attest to have realized the service delivery. All state institutions consider the NDP as a guiding document towards the realization of the Vision 2030. If we as government are to reach our goals and as depicted in the NDP, we have to ensure for robust evaluation and monitoring of policy implementation throughout the public service. And we must guarantee continuous evaluate of critical government programs and ensure they have the expected impact or outcome. The Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation should offer and empower legislators with a better opportunity to identify areas where policies and programs are having an impact and where they are not. And therefore, learning from implementation. The information that monitoring and evaluation programs and system generate is critical for raising awareness and promoting a debate about the efficiency of public programs and policies. It can empower citizens to hold their government accountable as long as there are also mechanisms in place for government to use this feedback to make changes in budgeting, planning, or efficiency of programs. Platforms such as the presidential hotlines are avenues where citizens can voice out their service delivery grievances. This tool assists government to assess challenges to service delivery in various areas. We therefore do hope that the department will resolve all grievances placed in such platform, focusing on the budget and understanding that the budget is a tool used to ensure for policy implementation. As the ANC, we therefore welcome the increment in the budget allocation to the department. The Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation overall budget allocation in the 22-23 financial year is 470.9 million, which is an increase as compared to 459.2 million in the 2021-22 financial year. This represents an increase of 17.84% in the nominal terms. This increment will assist the department to address the country's development priorities through the coordination and institutionalization of an integrated government planning system. And we are pleased to note that the budget will increase during the medium term. The National Planning Commission was tasked with reviewing some aspect of the NDP to address certain implementation challenges. Over the medium term, this review is expected to assess the capacity and capability of the state in measuring the implementation of the NDP. Related activities are said to be carried out in the management, National Planning Coordination Sub-Program in the National Planning Coordination Program. We hope that the department will persist to develop and implement planning framework and facilitate the alignment of the planning and budgeting function across government and in the department. This is extremely important, honorable members, to ensure that revenue is allocated to where it is required most and that the intended impact is made. Through the National Planning Commission, we have to ensure that the departmental strategic plans and annual performance plan are aligned to the MTEF. We therefore welcome the increment in this program as well. The department developed a monitoring and evaluation tool for the measurement of the piloted district development model and to determine the efficiency of the model with the aim of improving coherence and coordination across the spheres of government. With this, commend this as the ANC as we greatly understand the significance of coherence in the government. Coherence is very important when it comes to the public service. Coherent government policies enhance positive impact of business for sustainable development. For instance, a better coordination between government departments such as education, labor, and social policies can contribute to higher productivity that create a winning situation for both societies, the private sector and the public sector. Thus, Program 3 of sector monitoring services is therefore important to ensure government policy coherence. We welcome the increment in all the government's programs relating to the vote. Public servants are the drivers of implementation in the government. It is therefore become significant to evaluate the performance to assess whether they are performing diligently in delivering the service to the nation. We therefore appreciate that the budget will be used to compile submission on an evaluation of performance agreements for ministers and director generals, heads of department. This is critical, members, as it strengthens accountability in the public service. Honorable members, 2030 is drawing nearer. We are to be hard at work if we are to deliver the promises of the NDP to our citizens. Most importantly, South Africans need to see the impact of implemented policies in their lives. We commend the impact assessment conducted by the Department of us to see the impact that we are making in the lives of South Africans. Honorable Chair, we are engulfed with high levels of unemployment in the country. And as the President had alluded to in his State of the Nation address, we have to coordinate the conditions of employment in our country. As the biggest job creation sector is the private sector, it is therefore significant to draw our attention to Brand South Africa, as they have been bestowed with the responsibility of marketing the country brand to attract investment into the country. We have to acknowledge the brand South Africa contributes to the nation. However, indirectly, through job creation and poverty reduction, and to attract inward investment, trade and tourism. We appreciate that the budget allocation for Brand South Africa will increase during the medium term. We take this significant, honorable members, as investment into the country contributes towards job creation, which then relations to poverty alleviation. The ANC supports the budget vote 9, as it is aware that if we're not, as the EFF is not supporting the budget, I don't know what are their plans to say what the department is supposed to work with when they come to the what are they going to do if they don't support this budget. What I want to also speak about Honorable Chair, what I would like to speak about is it's shameful that the DA, every time when it comes and gets an opportunity, it speaks about cadre deployment. I don't know what is their challenge, because we're telling them that each and every time cadre deployment, they did so even in their time. I don't know why it is wrong when the ANC is doing that. We've got our own policies, our own guide where we do cadre deployment. I just only want to speak to the issue of Honorable Mutsib, the EFF, that if you are speaking about any of the performance that is improved, we know that in the portfolio committee, the department usually comes and speak to us with the reports, and then we adopt the reports and agree with the reports. But I do understand that because you are afraid to speak the truth now today, we are saying you don't support the budget, but while you know within your heart that actually this is what you are supposed to accept. So I think what I would like to say to the department, to the minister, the deputy minister, continue with doing your job, continue with monitoring and evaluation of the department, making sure that the people of South Africa are served regularly, are served correctly, so that service delivery is being given to the people of South Africa. We know that we've got this challenge that we're facing, which is the triple challenge, and we cannot face it alone as government. We also need the public sector to come out, the private sector to come out and assist also in making sure that we fight this triple challenge. I thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Malumani. The Honorable Minister in the Presidency.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Chair. May I take this opportunity to appreciate the robust engagement, the frank engagement by members of Parliament in analyzing our presentation and doing their criticism. I'm very clear that what I've actually witnessed is candor, without which this country will never get better. It's only when we listen to that with objectivity that we are going to be able to make a difference. I therefore appreciate that. I've listened to members saying how exemplary DPME is supposed to, and I think that we should take that without any hesitation. I've listened to members say, if we are to do oversight of the entire state, it starts with us to get better organized. I think we should take that, because it's only when we accept that robust criticism that we'll be able to get better. My only fear, though, is that, in other words, I just want to say up front, a number of things, quite an amount of criticism, Chair, that have been articulated here today. We've sat down as TPMB, we've reflected on those. There's a lot of concurrence on a number of issues, both in strengths and weaknesses that have actually been debated here. And I'm very clear in my mind that unless we sort those issues, we will not be able to reposition the PME as we propose, and will not be able to contribute to turnaround of the performance of this country as we are supposed. I think the PME has accepted, has adopted a vision called leader and a catalyst. In other words, accepting a responsibility to be unlocker of processes, to be a stimulator and a solution enhancer of how best government can perform. Chair, from the 2-day session we've had with the institution, I think we're equal to that task. So that stands there. Secondly, I appreciate the progress report made by DM Kekana on a number of areas where she works. By the way, you may not know, DMs are working in specific areas. And DM Kekana is also specifically in this area of monitoring and evaluation. And I think I was actually heartened by the progress report of the work that has been done so far. Having said that, I just want to say, Chair, it has been said, if you listen to the speech, we are committing to institutionalizing the monitoring and evaluation in South Africa, something we still feel is still lagging. And we believe that until monitoring and evaluation is institutionalized, it's a natural language that gets spoken by everyone, both in terms of format of reporting and the language that is being used. When we talk about theory of change, that it is spoken by everybody, we are committed to do that. We'll be processing the policy this year. It's articulated in the speech. One of the things we're committed to is that we want to demonstrate our capability this year, Chair. Just by checking the SONA implementation, there are many things that we're supposed to look at, but we thought there's a lot purely in the SONA presented by the President, because the SONA presented by the President deals with multi-billion value of infrastructure that will be in construction this year, no less than 21 billion. the President Sona speaks about the pipeline projects which the Infrastructure South Africa is attending to, together with the state-owned enterprises, of about 96 billion. The President has spoken about the series of energy interventions. The President spoke about interventions in terms of removing the red tape. In other words, the key issue, and the President and the Minister of Finance has come to allocate not less than 8.7 billion to police, no less than 1 billion to Justice Department. And the Minister of Finance placed no less than 7 plus billion during the medium term to unlock the private sector resources to promote the concept of planet finance for an infrastructure-led economic recovery. President spoke about 133 billion of 7 projects in the private sector, which require a bulk infrastructure for which Minister of Finance has put no less than 1.8 billion to unlock. We want to say DPME must be tested against these indicatives by the President. And I want to say, Chair, I'm convinced that DPME is equal to that task. Having said that, I think this death warrant and the death wish about the future of the ANC is not new, even before apartheid, before 94. I know Margaret Thatcher would have said it's an organization that will burst, it's a myth that will burst. Many years later, it became the leader of this country. I know what Verwoerd said about it, that the black cause is a useless cause. We were going through challenges that time. You know what? South Africans prevailed. We got to where we are. I'm listening to Honorable Maglua. He reminds me of the Bible when the Israel were in the wilderness, not seeing the back, not seeing the front, contemplating going back to Egypt. I just want to reassure him the cause of liberation, the cause of betterment of human life, against all the difficulties we've gone through of corruption, looting, poor performance, the people of this country, as articulated by the President in February, actually are rising to the challenge of being equal to that which our forebears fought and died for. So the death wish, the death warrant, and all these kind of things, I would just want to reassure Honorable Maglua, he must relax on that. And the point I want to make is that he will know now, in spite of all the noise they have been making, last year they have not been the choice of our people, in spite of the difficulties that we're going through. And ANC remains with the largest following in South Africa. They have not been the choice. Including the FF, it has not been the choice. So we are happy to be led by a president who doesn't turn a blind eye to people's criticism, to people's concern, to people's desperation, who ensured an unprecedented thing. When the Commission's report on corruption and what to call a state capture was completed, put it in the website for everyone to see its punctuation and full stop and comma. Professor Sendi report in the website, Mufamati, all. This is the transparent president that always ensures that our resolve and our ambitions, the solution lies in tabling it before the people by being transparent. That's why I'm very much convinced, Honorable Maglua, that the death wish, the death warrant is not going to succeed. Because watch the space. The DPME is equal to the task. Having said all that, I appreciate the fair criticism by honorable members, opposition, and so on. I'm the one who will never run away from accepting where weaknesses is actually being pointed. But the death wish, the death warrant, we are actually going to embarrass it because this organization is going to prevail. Because this organization did not plan itself. It's a plan of the people. It's here because people want it here. When they could not vote for us, they didn't vote for you. So we're very much convinced that DPMB is going to be equal to the task, and we will come back and report here whilst Honorable Maglu, we are alive, whilst Honorable Member of EFF is alive, and the leadership provided by the members of my party, the chair, on the challenges of the political administrative interface that we need to look at. Member Malumane about coherence and the framework that she emphasized on how critical. Those are the things now that we're implementing to make sure that we institutionalize. I listen to Honorable Kibi. Honorable members, all of you, without exclusion, I respect your criticism and will take them with a chin and soldier on. Do everything to turn the situation around, but we will despise the death wish. Thanks, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Thank you very much, Honorable House Chairperson, Co-Chair. Thank you very much, Honorable Members. That brings us to the end of the business of today. The sitting is now adjourned. Thank you.